Okay, it's Sunday's action. We've got four games that were played on Sunday. I saw two in their entirety, and this morning I caught up with the other two. Way past my bedtime to watch those late games, I'm sorry to have to say. So let's get into the action then, and we started at Bramall Lane. Sheffield United versus Fulham. These two are at the basement. They hadn't got a win between them, so they were both really anxious to change that statistic. Loftus-Cheek appeared on the pitch for Fulham. He's just been loaned out by Chelsea, and he's really a class act, but fitted with lots of injuries. So it remains to be seen whether that's going to be good business for Fulham, but on the face of it, I would say yes. Egan was back for the Blades. He'd been out for a while as well, and he's crucial to their defensive line. Early on, Kearney, the Fulham captain, tested Ramsdale after a corner, and then up the other end, Lundstrom's shot from distance was pushed over by Areola. Stevens on the left worked the keeper Areola again on 22, and a few minutes later, Berger, across from Berger, found McBurney, and he managed to head it straight at Areola. The first of many shortfalls, really, from McBurney. He should have had at least a couple in this first half. The first of many opportunities from McBurney, and he should have had at least a brace. Sheffield United were well on top in that first half, but they just couldn't get the final pass. Pressure was definitely mounting on the Fulham goal then, but a clever play by McGoldrick set Stevens to the byline, and again his cross, McBurney managed to not get a contact on it, although he was flagged offside, and this continued really up till the break. But finally, up the other end on 42, Mitrovic got into the box, and his effort held by Ramsdale. So goalless at the break then, but Blades definitely having the better of things. Into the second half, and 49 minutes, left edge of the Blades box, free kick to Fulham, but nothing came of it. And then Ramsdale flapped at a cross, and Lookman's shot was also blocked. Lookman was starting to look extremely dangerous on the ball, and Fulham was certainly starting to dominate. A corner on 55 minutes, and Loftus-Cheek header, and it was deflected by Robinson's hand. And guess what? VAR awarded a penalty, of course. Now Mitrovic, who's been spectacular for Fulham for the best part of 2 seasons now, prolific in front of goal, he managed to hit the bar and it flew over. A real let-off for the Blades, that was. And then a Fulham break on 62 minutes. Final pass, Robertson was able to turn it away for a corner. Sheffield United introduced their very expensive signing Brewster, who's cost 20 million. He was involved in England's under-17 World Cup triumph, and he played for Liverpool, although he was getting very little first-team action. So he was put on for his debut, but we still were looking for that first goal. Then finally it arrived, and it was Lookman on 76 minutes. Some silky skills, and he danced into the box and let rip with a fierce shot, which was too hot for Ramsdale, and that was the opening goal. So Fulham into the lead, 1-0. 82 minutes, a breakaway, and Kearney should have doubled the lead with a left foot shot, but it was tipped round the corner by Ramsdale. Then Mitrovic who was having a pretty wretched day all in all. He managed to get his boot too high inside the box, and you got it. VAR stepped in and awarded a penalty to the Blades. Now, Billy Sharp had come on. He's the club captain, and he's the allocated penalty taker. So guess what? He took the penalty, and he absolutely woofed it into the net, and it was 1-1. We had a frantic 5 minutes with Fulham looking more likely to get a winner. A delightful cross from Lukman again, but the final contact went just wide. So that's the way it ended. Probably about right on the day. First half to Sheffield United, second half to Fulham. Mitrovic will be having a sleepless night after his 2 indiscretions. But final score at Bramall Lane was Sheffield United 1, Fulham 1. So next up, Selhurst Park. Crystal Palace at home to Brighton. Team news, Cahill was back at Palace. He'd been out for a few months with a hamstring problem. And Riedewald was in midfield, still keeping Mihalovic on the bench. And up front, Batshuayi preferred to Benteke and Ayew. I think Ayew's got an injury. But anyway, Batshuayi on loan again from Chelsea. He's been and had a loan spell with Palace before and also in Germany. But he was next alongside Zaha. For Brighton, Connolly on the bench and Lallana selected from the off. His fitness must be improving. Early on, brisk possession by both, but Brighton having more of it, and Lamptey on the right looking quite dangerous. This young boy is certainly catching the eye. And 11 minutes though, Basuma got his shot away. He's been improving as well for Brighton, but it caught the side netting. And 13 minutes, White. He's was on loan at Leeds, but now he's back with Brighton. Leeds wanted to buy him, but Potter was having none of it. And his shot was inches wide for the Seagulls. And then a penalty was awarded on 16 minutes, really against the run of play. And Townsend's cross and Lamptey pushed Batshuayi, well, a slight nudge in the back, and Batshuayi fell over like he'd been hit by a cannonball. But the ref referred it to VAR, and a penalty was awarded. And Zaha stepped up, and it was 1-0. So Palace had really had the benefit, really, of a pretty soft decision. And that's how it was at 1-0 at the break. But it has to be said that Brighton were by far the better side. Into the second half now, and some neat play once again by Brighton. And Gaeta had to be alert to stop Mope, who swivelled on a shot, but little power in the effort. That was on 48 minutes. A great finish by Batshuayi on 51, but he was well offside, so that didn't count at all. And the pattern of play continued, really. Mope on 54 put through by Lallana, but he hesitated and the shot was blocked. That was from about 5 yards. And so it continued, really. More possession for Brighton, but solid Palace defence. Cahill looking very impressive. And it didn't look like Brighton were going to get back into this one. I made a note of that on 80 minutes. But then all of a sudden, McAllister, he's an Argentinian, don't know much about him. He came on and he had a bit of good fortune on 89 minutes. The ball fell to him after a slight deflection, and he gobbled it up. And then his shot was slightly deflected past Gaeta, and that drew the scores level. so one each. Brighton now looked like they wanted all three. And in 93 minutes, a desperate piece of defending in the box by Crystal Palace, and Dunk, over exuberant, went in with 2 feet, and he'll regret that because the referee pulled out a red card. So that was about it. Honours even, again, probably about right, although Hodgson really felt they should have finished the job because they'd done a very good defensive job up until the equaliser. But final score at Selhurst Park was Crystal Palace 1, Brighton 1. Right, London Derby next. I've only seen highlights of this, but it certainly looked the best game of the 4. Spurs versus West Ham. Spurs absolutely on a crest of a wave after that demolition job at Old Trafford, and they had Gareth Bale on loan from Real Madrid. He was on the bench. That's the first time we've seen him in a kit ready for action. But Bergwijn was up front, and Lucas Moura was warming the bench alongside Bale. Reguilón was at left back for Spurs, keeping out Davis, and Winks was on the bench, and as was Doherty, Aurelio, keeping him out at right back. So Spurs' squad looking pretty solid, it has to be said. Moyes was back on the touchline after his COVID quarantine, and West Ham, very little change. It's almost unchanged team, I felt, going through the team. And Noble still continued to be on the bench, and Rice had the armband. And of course they came off that winner at the King Power. First minute, and a looping cross from Kane. He's becoming a master of this. Over the top, he found Son running on, who else? And Son, sweet right foot shot as he cut inside, curled it past the keeper, Fabianski, and Spurs were 1 up with hardly 2 minutes on the clock. West Ham hadn't really got out of the blocks, and 7 minutes and some great interplay by Tottenham, and Son was involved as well again, and he managed to set up Kane this time, whose finish was sublime and in the corner. So that was 2-0 to Tottenham. 15 minutes, Son again looking dangerous on that left flank, and again Kane performing some tricks in the box, and he headed it into the net from a neat cross, and so Spurs were now 3-0 up, and we hadn't played more than 15 minutes. Well, after that, West Ham had to do something drastically, and they did improve, and they managed to get to the break without going further behind. And 47 minutes, they had a sort of half chance, and things were looking a little bit better for them. 49 minutes, Fornells heads over from about a yard. He should have done better, really. Good work by Antonio. And then on 60 minutes, Fabianski was tested again by Harry Kane. So it was still 3-0 when we witnessed the arrival of Gareth Bale. He came on for Bergwijn on 71 minutes. And on 78, Son again feeding Kane, and he was inches wide. And then all of a sudden, things changed. 81 minutes, a free kick, and Balbuena managed to hit home from 6 yards. The Spurs defence looked a bit flat-footy, and all of a sudden, there was a hope for West Ham. And 3 minutes later, Sofel, down the right, he clipped the ball across, and Sanchez decided that he wanted to head the ball into his own net. And miraculously, now West Ham were just a goal adrift. And 91 minutes, Bale had a good opportunity to get Mourinho sat down again. He would jink through the West Ham defence, but his final effort just crawled inches wide of the goal. It's 94 minutes now, and Mourinho looking at his watch, and there was a lot of pressure on the Tottenham goal. They were panicking for sure. A corner, and as a result of the corner, the ball got cleared, and then it came out to Lanzini, who was way outside the box, and he hit it first time, and it curved off his boot and hit the top corner, the top right-hand corner as he was seeing it, of Lloris's goal, went in off the bar, and West Ham's players went absolutely crazy, as did Moyes on the touchline. This was absolutely stunning, and all of a sudden West Ham have come back from the dead and have levelled the match, and it finished it finished Spurs. I'm getting excited already telling you about it. Spurs got 3 goals in the first half, but the final score was Spurs 3, West Ham 3. Okay, so after all that excitement at the new White Hart Lane, we trudged across to the King Power Stadium for the late match, Leicester versus Villa, Aston Villa that is, and remarkably it was 3 playing 2 in the league table prior to yesterday's matches. So Villa 3 wins out of 3, undefeated. Leicester just the 1 reverse last week against, 2 weeks ago, sorry, against West Ham. It was a pretty titanic struggle really between the two. Not a lot of good football, a lot of stern midfield and defensive work. So here are the very brief highlights. 21 minutes, Castagna managed to get through on the overlap into the box, but Martinez, the new keeper for Villa, managed to push it behind. And then a little bit later, Grealish up the other end did some fine work on the left, and his cross wasn't really collected, and the shot went well wide. That was the break then, goalless, and not a lot happened in the second half either. Tielemans was trying to do his best. They were without Vardy. He's got a calf problem, and so they had Suleimani in for him. They did bring on their midfield maestro, and the name escapes me now, but I'll probably tell you by the end of it, to add a little bit of strength in midfield. But Tielemans was basically their lead man there. He had a shot on 59 minutes, but Martinez seemed to handle it. And then we got to the closing minutes into added time, and a breakaway. Barclay, of course, he's been brought in from Chelsea, and he hit a stunning shot from the edge of the box that caught Schmeichel a little bit cold, and it whizzed past Schmeichel, and that was it. Villa were in absolute Nirvana land, or wherever it is. They had won their 4th game in a row, bearing in mind that they only just escaped relegation in the last season. They had gone 4 in a row, and they'd beaten Leicester by 1-0. And Vardy apparently is going to be possibly back next weekend, and they dearly needed him because Iheanacho really was a bit toothless up front. Rodgers felt that they were a bit unlucky, and Dean Smith reckoned that his side had been a bit lucky. But that's the way it goes in football. Now, there are 2 matches tomorrow on Monday involving Leeds United, Wolves, West Brom, and the 4th team escapes me. But I'll probably think of it as soon as I say goodbye. So, goodbye.